Okay, so we're starting on Pei Gimel. This is 83 at the Mishnah. You just the legs also if you want. There's two Mishnayos here. We're starting on the first one. Go back a page because we're 83a. Let me see the line. Okay, yeah, there you go. There should be a Mishnah there. It says what is it? 83?
83A. 2.
83A2. Shalom. Very nice. Good to see you. Thank you. Thank you. Sending you guys back also.
It's in the morning.
It's before the morning.
This is
Ba'abar Prakam Bashana. 4 times during the year, someone sells an animal to his friend, he has to tell him that Ima macharti l'shchita. I've sold the mother for shchita. I guess that's opposed to an animal could be sold for working, but he has to tell him that no, I sold the animal for shchita. Or similarly, bita macharti l'shchita. Or I sold the daughter for shchita. The Elohim. What are the 4 times that the person actually has to say this? So Erev Yom Tevachin Shel Chag. This is very interesting. The day before Shmini Atzeres. Rashi says that because it's a regel b'fnei atzmai, a regel atzmai, it's very special, and they would make a big meal for Shmini Atzeres. Stuffed cabbage. Right? Isn't that the Shmini Atzeres? That's stuffed cabbage? So,
Kapusta.
How do you say it?
Kapusta in Hungarian.
Oh, kapusta. Do you speak Hungarian?
No.
Okay. So that's the first one. Erev Yom Tov Rishon Shel Pesach. This is the obvious one. Pesach. Of course, you're gonna have some meat for Pesach, even if it's not a carbon, just to have for Yom Tov. Erev Atzeres. This is very interesting. Also Erev Shavuos, because I guess Hakol Moedim B'Bina and Menachem. I guess. Erev Rosh Hashanah. And Erev Rosh Hashanah, we're supposed to have a big meal, and to show that we're sure that Hashem is gonna give us a good year. Rabbi Yossi Galili says also that Erev Yom Kippur in the Galilee. Rabbi Yossi Galili is from the Galilee, and he tells us what they would do. That Erev Yom Kippur there's another one, a 5th one. Okay, what's happening during these times? That if someone sells an animal, you can assume that it's going to be shechted that very day. And so therefore, you have to tell the second buyer that you've already sold the mother or daughter. Amar Rav Yehuda, Rabbi Yehuda says, Hey Masai, when do you have to mention that? Bisman shein li revach, if there was no space in between. Aval yesh li revach ein tzarich leidir, but if there was a space in between, which means he sold it yesterday, the day before Erev Yom Tov, then he doesn't have to tell him that, by the way, I sold it yesterday, the person may be shechting it today. That you don't have to do. He probably shechted it yesterday if he sold it yesterday. Although it's not necessarily so, but it's possibly so, and therefore you don't have to tell him. Rabbi Yehuda acknowledges, this is Rabbi Yehuda's opinion, that if there's a space in between, you don't have to say. Rabbi Yehuda agrees that that if you sold the larger animal to the mother, to the chassan, and the wedding is the following day, and the smaller animal, the younger animal, you sold it to the kala, that you have to tell them, because apparently they would have separate guests. There was the chassan's party and the kala's party on the day of the wedding, and the chassan would shecht and the kala would shecht, and they would have their meat like that.
What a great idea.
Now it could be that the chassan's female guests would go to the Kala's party. That doesn't really help because financially, but nevertheless, the Kala had a party in her quarters and the chassan had in his. Okay. Okay, this now we're getting into a financial discussion here. We're talking about that a purchaser of meat, paid the sheichet, the butcher, for a piece of meat, and the butcher is going to have to shech the large animal to give him the meat, but he doesn't have enough buyers. So during these 4 times, these 4 seasons, the 4 seasons there's a lot of shechting going on. So then afilu shorsha ve'elef dinarim, even an ox that's worth 1,000 dinarim, ve'in le'lekech ela dinar.
Worth of meat.
He only bought 1 dinar worth of meat. So we force the guy to shecht his ox, his huge ox, to give the meat to this one person, this one buyer. What's he going to do with the rest? Either he'll have to make his own barbecue, or he'll sell it at a lower price. But the meat is needed, and he already paid. We'll see exactly the details in the Gemara. Lefikach emes. That being the case, that being said, if the animal is shechted, let's say, and it died before, or it was a treifa or something like that, so meis the lekeach loses his dinar. Because he already purchased it, why are we forcing him to shech? Because he already purchased that piece of meat out of this animal. So therefore, if for whatever reason that is not eligible to be eaten, so it's his own loss. Could be the door is locked. Check if the door is locked. I don't know. Sometimes they're locked.
Well, that's just the wind.
Just the wind? Okay. Now, Aval B'Shayim Shana, but the rest of the year, Einakain, it's not so. Lefikach meis l'moicher. The rest of the year, the guy paid for the meat. He shechts an animal, but when he, it doesn't come out kosher. So that's the seller's loss. He paid for a piece of meat. Go get him a piece of meat. That's the seller's loss, not the buyer's loss. During those other seasons, it's the buyer's loss. Okay.
Is it a mitzvah to eat meat? Is that what's going on here? It's
During
a mitzvah
those
to
times,
eat meat
yes.
on those particular
Right.
times.
So
So if
Right.
you don't do it, he doesn't have the mitzvah
Yeah.
because he was counting on getting it
Yeah,
there.
not necessarily is it the mitzvah here. There may be a financial way that we're relying on the sale, as we'll see in the Gemara. The sale may have been done differently during those times.
But how the shoichet only owns a portion?
So the buyer buys a piece of meat from this animal. So he says, "I want the front leg," you know.
Oh, just going to the coin.
Ken gets both or one? That's right. He gets one for sure. Does he get both? He gets one.
Coins.
The Kayan gets one of the legs. Find out quick.
I know we get the brisket in the first rib.
Brisket?
Yeah.
You have at home brisket?
No, I have it in yours to show. While you guys got the pony up.
In the coat, next to the coat, in the house in that part.
Morning.
Anywhere.
Okay.
It just seems a bit of an odd halakha to me. I don't understand it because I would think the halakha would be easier if it said And if the butcher doesn't want to shuck the animal and waste 999 parts of it, he just gives him the money to go to another butcher.
Right.
Capitalism wasn't alive.
Let's see.
was
We'll
alive.
see in the Gemara. We'll see in the Gemara. Tana.
So then we conclude. Yesterday we asked if one person checks the mother and one checks the daughter. What's the question? So it seems like we concluded that you don't have to check the mother and the daughter. One person can check the mother, one person can check the daughter, and they're both liable. That's what this mission is.
Well,
implying.
whichever one's first. Whichever one is second is liable. So Tana.
Right. Okay, makes sense.
That's only if the mother was shechted. That's,
Same
and we
day.
learned the other day
Whichever
that
one was
if I
shechted
did
first.
the shecht, the daughter first, and the other one won't be liable.
No, we said the opposite. We said Oisei ves Benai and Benai v'Oisei is the same.
Oh, what was
That's
it?
what we
I
learned.
couldn't remember the
Yeah. So Tana, it was taught in a Braisa, Imlai Haidiyai, that if he doesn't notify him, Hailach v'Sheichet bein nimna, then there's no problem with him shechting it. In other words, if he didn't tell him, then he doesn't have to assume anything that there was a mother. He can just go ahead and shecht. Now, I saw somewhere that the Rush quotes a Sheiltais that says that this is only if you're buying from a Jew. But if you're buying from a non-Jew, then it's not. Then this won't work.
Obvious.
And the Rush himself argued on him, and he said, "No, you never have to be concerned about that." No, I'm not seeing this here though.
about a non-Jew.
Yeah.
But isn't that just similar to like the difference between the mashgiach 3D and the mashgiach that just shows up? Depends if you're dealing with a from owner and a
Yeah, I understand. The question is how much you have to suspect to this. You know, is it something that's that frequent that the mother should be sold and shechted, and you have to worry about these things?
So why should a non-Jew worry about it?
No, you bought an animal from a non-Jew,
Right.
and the non-Jew didn't tell you anything. So if you bought it from a Jew and the Jew didn't tell you anything, so then you're allowed to go ahead and shecht, because the Jew probably would have sold the mother, the daughter would have told you that he sold the mother the same day. But you buy from a non-Jew, then he's not going to tell you anyway.
Go bust a roof.
So, you go bust a roof. Well, and rave days it wouldn't have been.
Right, most people.
So you just say rave days or rave animals.
Right.
That's funny. You should have said it's a pun. Basar of.
Okay, basar kasher. Basar. Right, that's what the sign said. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Emasai. Rabbi Yehuda says, when do we say this? Rabbi Yehuda is the student of Rabbi Akiva on the first chart, the other chart. And he is Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Lai. See, it's right here. Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Lai. You have him circled on it below. Student of Rabbi
It's
Akiva.
very, it's not.
Right outside Tzfas,
Tzfat,
right?
yeah. When you go to Tzfat, you go by his place, by
Yeah.
his tzivun.
Rabbi Yehuda.
Huh?
Rabbi Yehuda.
But yeah, Rabbi Yehuda.
You go by-
So Rabbi Yehuda says that when do we say this? This is only if it's sold in the same day, but not if it's sold on a different on a different day. Then Rabbi Yehuda went on. He says, but he agrees. Rabbi Yehuda admits that if there was a sale that was done to the chassan and a sale that was done to the kala, that even if there was a day in between, you have to notify them because they're probably shechting for the same wedding. Let's assume. So it says, why do we say that the mother was to the chassan and the daughter was sold to the kala? The Gemara says, it's just telling us an interesting thing on the side. That the way of the people is that they spend more money, they buy larger animals for the chassan's party than for the kala's party. My only explanation for this is that the kala spends more on the flowers and on the
Dress.
and the dress, and the chassan spends more money on the meat. It doesn't say that here. It just says that they spend more for the food for the chassan. The larger animal, the mother, would be the chassan. In these 4 times, though we force the person to shecht his animal, even though the seller, the buyer only purchased 1 dinar. The Gemara says, "V'halei mashach." he didn't make a kinyan on it, that he owns already that portion. He just paid for it. Amar Rav Huna Amar Rav Kishem Mashach. Rav Huna says in the name of Rav, no. He took the animal and he pulled the animal, and to acquire that one piece of meat that's going to be his, that's inside this animal.
It's recognizing that by pulling, you recognize that he's
Purchase.
purchased it, yes.
Ihachi, if so, Ema Seifa. If he pulled it, so the Mishnah made a contrast. During these 4 seasons, then we force him to shech. During other times of the year, we don't force him to shech. Now that's the only variable, is the time, is which season it is. But the case has to be the same. So if he was mashach, so abel b'shayim shana kain, but the rest of the year it's not so. Lafikachem meis l'meicher, and therefore if it dies to the seller. And as it's the seller's loss, he does has to return the dinar. 1 second, v'hamashach, why does he have to return the dinar? It wasn't his loss. That piece of meat was already sold. It's his own loss. It's the buyer's loss if he already acquired that piece of meat.
But if he's already made a kinyan,
He's made a kinyan.
what do we need the discussion about the time of the year? He's made a kinyan.
That's right.
He doesn't own
Right.
it. He doesn't own it.
No, but he's the purchaser owns that piece of meat. And why should there be a difference between the seasons if he purchased it?
If you have to.
Amar Rav Shmuel bar Rav Yitzchak le'elam shlei mashach. Shmuel bar Yitzchak says no. He did not make a kinyan. Or rather, I should say, lei mashach himself. He didn't do the Mashiach himself. But he did give it to a third party to acquire for him. This goes under the category of zachan ladam shlei b'fanav. That a person, when the land of Israel was divided up, so the leaders were acquiring it for the people, those portions, and they were able to to do the acquisition for other people because that would be a benefit for them. No one's going to protest when they get a piece of land, so that was a benefit for them that they were acquiring it on their behalf. However, you can't acquire anything to their detriment for their behalf. So now it goes like this. Ba'arba prakim elu, during these 4 times, this chusulai, that it's his benefit. So then the kinyan works. Zachan ladam shlei b'fanav. That's considered the chus for him to have the meat. But the rest of the year, which it's not to his benefit, it's to his detriment, so ein chavan ladam shlei b'fanav. The acquisition doesn't work. Now, I guess I should point out that if there would be a real object that was being acquired here, something that lasts, so that would be considered a schus. But because this is something that has a very short shelf life, so if it's a holiday, then that's considered a schus. But if it's a regular weekday, then to go spend money on the meat, maybe he wants the meat, but you can't use someone else to acquire on his behalf and have that assumption that, it's a schus, now he has more meat. You follow that? Okay. You want to come here?
Yeah, please. No, please.
Okay. So that's our answer. Now we understand the difference in the seasons, because we're using a third party to acquire, and will that be a kinyan? Okay, on the side it's switched from Rabbi Lazar to Rabbi Eily based on a different Gemara, but Rabbi Lazar Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Lazar says the name of Rabbi Yochanan. No, in the chart, yes, Rabbi Lazar is a student of Rabbi Yochanan. So it could be that Rabbi Lazar is saying it in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Lazar here is saying in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. Going back to a first generation, what do they call it? Maybe they call it a second generation. Ba'arba prakim elu, during these 4 times, these 4 holidays, Hemidu chachamim divrayim al din Torah. See, what happened was like this. Really, according to the Torah, once a person gives money, that's already considered an acquisition. However, there was a slight problem with that, because if someone would pay for something and he didn't actually take it, then the seller would not take care of the merchandise the same way, because it's not his anymore. So if you would go and buy grain from someone and you would put down the money, now that grain becomes yours, and then a fire breaks out, God forbid, in the house, So the seller is going to save all his items, and then when you show up, you say, "Oh, I'm so sorry, your stuff got burnt. There was no fire insurance," and so you would lose. So it wasn't good for the buyers, and the person would just ignore what was his, what was purchased but wasn't taken. So, and he would just let it get lost. So they made the rabbis instituted that money itself is not an acquisition. You need to actually pull it. Once you pull it, you assume you take it out of the person's house. You take it home. You take it home. Now it's yours. If it's in your house, you're going to save it, so it'll be protected better. So, however, but biblically, money is an acquisition. It's only the rabbis that changed that said it's not considered. So Rabbi Yochanan says like this: Rabbi Yochanan, Devar Torah Mois Kainas. According to the Torah, money acquires. Why did they say that you need to pull it? Mashicha is you pull it to make a kinyan. We're concerned that maybe the seller is going to say, "So sorry, your wheat got burnt in my attic, and it's your loss. What can I do?" So over here, what's happening is there was no Mashicha. He paid for it. On these holidays, the rabbis rely on the biblical acquisition, that you paid for it, becomes yours. During the rest of the year, you have to do you go through the normal means of doing the regular Mashicha. Very interesting.
We can explain this last line about why we force him to sell the whole cow, or chef the whole cow.
You don't have to shut the car. Just take part of the car.
Yeah, that's what they do in China.
Yeah, you go over there and just cut
You
it.
pull off the leg and you're good.
Then you can make barbecue.
Excuse me, the cow is holy. That's not China. You're thinking of Vietnam.
No, that's not what he said, doctor, please. Good intentions.
It's wrong country.
Yes.
So in other words, the Rabbanim
India,
said that
the
during
cows
these
holy.
4 Yomim Tovim, or Erev Yomim Tovim, the biblical form of
In
Kinyan
India.
Right.
is
I have the wrong
holds.
country.
So it must be Tirkad Tzibur, or just because it's a mitzvah to eat? I'm trying to understand why.
Because we're also touching cow.
Let's see what he says over here. Must be because of the mitzvah of Yom Tov, the mitzvah to eat. Let's say that. Okay. Next Mishnah says, Yomi echad hamar Bais ve'espinai hayom halach achar halayla.
Yeah. So going back to what we spoke about Qatar Waqif before,
Tell me,
on what is called Yom.
what is called a day?
Yeah,
Right.
that's what is nice
So-
to clarify it.
So we're saying here that the day follows the night.
Like you said, by Boker.
The day follows the night. That means that it starts in the evening, and then it continues into the morning. So what would happen is, if you shecht an animal at night, then the whole following 24 hours or 23 hours you can't shecht the child or the mother. However, if you shecht an animal right before dark, then an hour later you can shecht the mother or child, because the night switches. Asu Darash Reb Shimon ben Zayma. Reb Shimon ben Zayma made this drasha. He was a friend of Rabbi Akiva, but I don't know if he's on the chart. No, they don't have the Ben Azai and Ben Zayma here. So, Nemar b'Maisa Bereshis, it says by creation, Yoim Echad, one day. V'Nemar b'Isur Vespinai Yoim Echad, and it also says by Oiseves Benai Yom Echad Leisishchatu b'Yom Echad. You shall not slaughter them in the same day. Ma Yom Echad Amar Ma'aser Bereishis, just like the one day that it says, or day one, it says Ma'aser Bereishis. Hayom Halach Achar Alayla, the day follows the evening. Af Yom Echad Amar B'Oiseves Benai Hayom Halach Achar Alayla. Also by Oiseves Benai, the day follows the evening. That means that the day in the Jewish calendar starts at night, and it continues through the next morning. Not 12 midnight. Starts by sunset or 3 stars or whatever, and it continues to till the next evening, sunset. Okay, and he learns this from creation. With the Rashbam, this famous Rashbam that learns in Ma'aser Bereishis, he learns that the night follows the day. They say it's a mistake. They edited it out. They made a big tumult when the Art Scroll printed the new Mikras Gedolos, and they didn't put that piece of the Rashbam in there. Mm-hmm. So they made a big tumult that the Art Scroll edited that out. They said, no, there's other manuscripts that have it, and someone put it in. It was a mistake to put it in, not to... Okay. It doesn't fit. The Rashbam doesn't fit with everything that we know. Why do we keep Shabbos like that? Because that's how it was by creation. So it doesn't fit with... Hitan Rabbanan. The rabbis taught in a Braisa. Zudaras Reb Shimon ben Zaymer. Reb Shimon ben Zaymer taught the following: that section where it says that you can't shech the mother and daughter in the same day is in Shorei Kesef Vayez Ki Yivaled, which is with the section that we read on Yom Tif in Parshas Amar. And over there it's talking about that a sacrifice, you have to wait 7 days before you bring it as a sacrifice. You have to, an animal that's born, you have to wait 7 days before you bring it as a sacrifice. So we're talking about Kachim. When it comes to sacrifices, the night follows the day. It works the other way. You shech the carbon by day, you have the whole night to finish eating it, or to all of that. So the night follows the day. Okay. So Yachalaf Zekein. So maybe Oiseves Benai in context should be the same. That the night should follow the day. If you shecht in the morning, then that night you can't shech the mother or daughter. So Nemar Kan Yom Echad v'Nemar Ma'aser Bereishis Yom Echad. That's why we need this pasuk to teach me that it's different. It says by creation, one day or day one, and it says by Oiseves Benai Yom Echad Ma Yom Echad Ma'aser Bereishis Hayom Halach Achar Alayla. Just like by Bereishis, the day follows the night. That means it starts with the night and continues through the day, and the day ends before nightfall. Also by Oiseves Benai, the day follows the night. That's the whole story of Ben Zaymer. We quote the full story. The Mishnah quoted a piece of it, and from the Braisa we get a little bit more. That first there was a comparison to Kachim, and then we needed this pasuk to take me out of that comparison. Rabbi says, Yom Echad, Yom HaMiyuchad Ta'an Kruz. Yom Echad means day one. It means a special day. It means those special days. Right. Right. So those are the days that you need to announce that this is when I shechted the mother. So from this we said that there are 4 times that we have these special days that you need to announce that I slaughtered the mother, or I sold the mother already for slaughtering. Therefore you have to be careful not to slaughter the child in the same day. Rashi quotes over here that we read the pasuk Lo Sashchitu. Don't cause it to be shechted in the same day. That's one pshat. Other pshat is, he just says that Yom Echad means that it's a special day. Echad means not just one, it means special. Special day, it's a day that where they make announcements of what family members of this animal were sold. Okay. Hajjan Lach, Oiseves Benai Bli Neder. Turn to this chapter. Bli Neder. Kisei Adam, you have to cover the blood. It's a new section here. Cover the blood of an animal that's slaughtered properly, as we'll see. Not an animal, a wild animal or a bird. Noig ba'aretz b'chutz la'aretz. Rashi points out that it's really not necessary to say this right here, but because this list was used in other places, and there is one point that it is necessary, so we give you the whole list. But you have to do this in the land of Israel, you have to do this outside the land of Israel. B'fnei habayis or shlei b'fnei habayis, whether the temple is existing or not. B'chulin, you have to do it for all mundane animals, avaloi b'makdashim, but not for sacrifices. You don't have to cover the blood of sacrifices. Now you'll say there is no wild animal sacrifices, but however there are birds. And you have to cut chatasayf and eilasayf. Those two birds, the Mishnah says you don't have to cover the blood when you do malika on those birds. B'noig b'chaya u'ba'oif. It applies to a wild animal and to a bird. B'mezumin and b'shenim mezumin. Whether the bird is owned or whether it's free and wild. Mezumin means prepared. The Yiddish for cash, the slang was mezumin. That was the slang for cash because it's like you have it. The mezumin means that you prepared it. It's ready to. That means mezumin would mean a bird house that you have is mezumin. Ein mezumin is a bird that you just got in the wild, a nest in the wild. B'noyig b'koi, it applies to a koi. That was the animal that we discussed. All those different opinions, what it is. If it's a crossbreed or if it's some sort of own species. Mipnei shu safek, because possibly it is a wild animal, and so therefore, based on that possibility, you have to cover the blood. But you can't shecht it on Yom Tov, okay? Because you're not allowed to cover the blood if you don't have to, and it's a suffix. And if you did shecht, you don't cover the blood.
The Motzi Yom Tov you can.
Do you have that written in there?
It's a member.
Oh yeah?
You're not knowing the day, man.
Uh-huh.
So the Rambam holds you can cover it the next day. You
That
can cover
night.
the blood
That night.
the next day.
So still the chiyuv kisei adam.
Uh-huh.
I was talking,
Yeah, but
we were
it says
talking
that.
about
Interesting.
Empire chickens. They cover the blood at the end of the shift. You can go from one day
According
to the
according to that, why can't you shecht on Yom Tov and cover it by Yom Tov? Why isn't that the lechatchila? We're afraid you might cover it.
You get dirt to cover the blood.
Maybe because there's a mitzvah to shecht, to cover it. It must
So-
be.
There's a mitzvah to
It must
cover.
be that the earlier you do it, the better. I don't know. I have to look into that. Okay. Now the Gemara says, "Muktasha my time aloi." Why don't you have to cover the blood by a sacrifice? Just it says, "B'chiso ba'afer," you cover the blood. Eily mishum de Reb Zera. If it's because of something that Reb Zera says, Dam Reb Zera hasheichet tzarich shitin afer lamata v'afer lamayla shnema v'shafach esnama v'kiso ba'afer. Reb Zera says that you have to put the dirt below the blood and on top of the blood. Why? Because it says you spill the blood and cover it in dirt. Bi'afer. Bi'afer could mean with